Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Fearlessly Curious podcast with me, your host, Melissa Indot. This is your safe space to listen, lean in, and learn the diversity of human experiences through the lens of fearless curiosity. And today, once again, because I want to honor the month of May as being Mother's Day month around the world. Although I know there's some territories that celebrate Mother's Day in a different month. For me, Mother's Day is always in the month of May. So I have my mom as a guest for the whole month of May. And today we're going to talk about, or she's going to enlighten us on this topic of you're never too old and it's never too late. So, Mom, welcome to the Fearlessly Curious podcast again. How are you feeling today?
Oh, good. Very good.
And how does this topic title land for you? What are the sort of memories that come up for you? This whole idea that you're just we're too old to start anything new, or that we're too late to do something new.
Yes, I always had the notion that one is too old. And I mean, I'm already in my 80s, and I think that's really quite old. But I started thinking, even in my 70s, maybe it's too late to start anything. But anyway, my daughter, being a life coach, she runs retreats, and she did a few in Bali, in different parts of the world, and she had one in Ibiza. She had for like mother and daughter, and she really wanted me to attend. But I was in London then, and she was already in Ibiza, and she said, "Mom, you just get a ticket. Somebody take you to the airport. I'll meet you at the other end." I said, "No way! I'm not going to fly on my own. I've never flown on my own to a country that does not speak English." And in
So,
Ibiza, they spoke Spanish, and I don't speak Spanish. But
so wait a minute, Mom. I'm just going to ask. So, you have never traveled on your own?
I have traveled on my own, like from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia to London, from point A to point B, and to an English speaking country. And London is almost like my second home. I
Okay.
know everything, all the roads, but to a strange place in Europe, I've never done that. And at my age, in my 70s, she said, "No, you can do it. You can do it." So I thought to myself, "Oh, okay, I'll give it a try. I trust that she'll be at the point when I arrive, because she said, I'll be there waiting for you. Don't worry." So I did take the plunge, and my very close friend drove me to the airport, saw me almost waving me goodbye until I walked to the plane. And I took that flight, which wasn't very long, thank goodness. Of course, at the other end, I was happy to see her face as I got off the plane. And anyway, I did attend this um, mother and daughter retreat. I found it very interesting because I've never attended a retreat before. I had no idea what to expect. So it wasn't too late. So I started in my 70s. I attended a retreat.
Guess what, Mom?
Right.
You were 80. It was the year that you turned 80. It was 2018.
Oh, really? Oh, so it
Yeah.
was quite
Oh,
something. Right. Well, I was quite proud that I did it. I enjoyed that retreat and learned something from it. And I met a lot of other mothers and daughters and saw how we had different relationships. It was interesting.
I'm love to I'd love to learn a little bit more about what were the thoughts, that and fears that ran through your mind and your emotions when you thought about traveling on your own. What were your
Oh,
fears?
quite a few, because I'm at this stage of my life, my hearing is not good. In fact, I'm using hearing aids to help. And, with hearing aids, sometimes I can't hear what the announcements in the airport when they make announcements about flights and all. So I'm afraid I might miss out on those announcements. Uh, that's one. And my eyesight is not perfect either. Um, and of course, I'm not as strong as before. I can't help myself to luggage from when I arrive at this place, to take it from the carousel. I need a little bit of help here and there. And I like company when I'm traveling. I don't like to be on my own because it means I have to take my luggage when I need to go to the washroom as well. All these are quite cumbersome for me, and my memory is not all that great. I might leave a document here or there, or my wallet or passport, things like that. So it's a lot of things going through my mind. So I was really a bit worried.
And how did you overcome those fears in the end?
Well, with encouragement, I guess, and confidence that my daughter had in me. So you can do it, you can do it. So I said, okay, I'll give it a go and see how. And it went pretty well.
That's fantastic to hear, Mom. I'm so glad that you did that. I mean, I was very excited. I'll never forget the moment that
Yeah.
you came through on the other side, and I was at the airport. In fact, I'm going to dig a video out, and I'm going to see if I can attach it to the video podcast for the video podcasters watching. And for those of you listening to the audio, if you want to see the video of that moment when my mom walked out of the arrivals and the look and expression on her face of pride and joy,
And
then
relief.
and relief, then I definitely encourage you to head on over to the video podcast, which will drop a couple of weeks after the audio podcast. But I promise you, it's worth watching. So what did happen, Mom, in those moments when you were traveling on your own and you felt that you needed that support? What did you learn from that experience?
I learned that if I really want to do something, I can, but I just still lack that confidence. Nevertheless, if I don't have to do it, I won't. Why do I need to suffer this anxiety? It's not good for me. I won't do it if I don't need to.
Yeah, but did you need to? That's what I'm saying. That you're saying that I won't do
Well,
it if I don't need to, but you still did it. Was it a need that you were fulfilling?
there wasn't a need, but in a way, I said just to prove to myself that I can do it if I really put my head to it.
And that you're
Nothing
not.
is impossible at
Yeah.
whatever age.
And therefore you're not too old, are you, to try something new? And it doesn't have
No,
to be a need per se. It's a choice. I believe that you made a choice. Even though I had confidence in you, it still comes down to you to make the decision and the choice to take that action.
I guess you're never too old to do or learn or do something you really want to. You put your heart and soul to it, you can do it.
And would you say it's like flexing, building a muscle, building strength, right? The more that you allow yourself to think, oh, I'm too old now to do it. And it's not so much about pushing yourself, but allowing yourself to have that experience. I like to frame it that way because I also don't believe that we ought to push ourselves too hard. We need to know what our boundaries are. We need to feel safe with something, but it doesn't mean that we have to cut ourselves off from having a new experience. And, Mom, I know people talk about feel the fear and do it anyway. And people think that, oh, I don't have the courage. But courage isn't about having the strength to get to the end of an experience. Courage is what we fill our hearts with when we step into an experience that is the unknown. It takes courage to even consider it. To be honest, even to have the idea already requires courage. And I believe that's half the battle won. If you can process the idea of doing something, you are already embodying a level of courage. What are your thoughts around that?
Maybe that is, yeah, but still, nevertheless, one has to know one's limitations, especially when I'm getting older, and every year I can find a year older is a little bit more problem. If you're in your 20, if you go to 25 to 30 is nothing. Those are really your prime years. But from 75 onwards, every year, I feel myself, I have less energy and,
Yeah.
I have my limitations and I have to admit that don't be too brave and try to be a hero at this age.
I think it's important I hear what you're saying about knowing what your limitations are as you're getting older, but having clarity on what your limits are allows you to know what you can ask for support for. So if you have, if you're harder of hearing, you need hearing support, aid. you need visual support, you need mobility support, you know that's what your limits are, not because it's telling you I can't do it anymore,
Yeah.
but that you know what you need to take care of. You have to ask for assistance, request, because these if you want to fly, most travel routes have the accessibility support, right? So knowing your limitations, don't let that stop you. It's just about getting clear on what kind of support you can ask for.
And another thing which I don't like doing is filling forms to read in between the lines. Sometimes I might misunderstand or miss something, So yeah, so I don't like that part.
Yes, but remember what our topic is. It's about you're never too old and it's never too
No.
late,
No, you're not
right?
never
And
too old to learn.
I know that if I'm constantly focusing on what I can't do, right, then I won't end up doing anything. But if I focus on what I can't do because it's giving me clarity on how I can be helped. See, it's still the same thing. I need to get clear on what I can't do, but not because it's stopping me from doing it, but it's because I need to find a way to gain the support so that I can do it. I think it's very important. And having people around you who are cheering you and encouraging you
Yeah,
to do
that
things.
helps. Definitely. It does help. Does help a lot.
So, what else, Mom? I know there's other things that you have proven the it's never too old and you're never too late.
Oh, there's this big moment in my life. I think it was when I was like 82, maybe 82. My daughter comes to me and says, you know what do you call it, a scouting agent or they came to me, and because they saw a video of you and me singing on some, Melissa posted it in one of her Facebook or live shows. And this scouting agent heard me singing with her and said, Melissa, why don't you ask your mom to come and audition for a voiceover in a Disney movie?
Yeah.
Because I think she has the right voice to be a grandmother. So she came to me and she asked me, I said, what? Are you joking? Going for an audition at 82? No way, I don't want to. I've done all my singing days, my audition days, they're all over. Oh, Mom, come on, let's just do it for the fun of it, because I mean, it's something big, it's a Disney movie.
Yeah.
And of course, when we told it to the rest of the family, my son, my daughter, my grandchildren said, oh, come on, Mama, go for it, go for it. So again, with a lot of friendly persuasions, I went and jumped on it. So we went for this audition, and first time I went to a recording studio and how they, to see how they do it. They put the movie out, and they record your voice, and then they put the movie out and try and put your voice into that character. It was most interesting, I must say. It was an experience. And my grandson was actually there to help me because he's quite good in all this, recording. So between him and my daughter, they came to the studio and they did help me. So it was another experience of a lifetime at the age of 82. So it's never too late. Quite, quite rewarding, I must say. And yeah, I was happy I did it.
I'm so glad that happened. I remember that too. It's this is kudos to you though, Mom, because for the listeners out there who don't know, I normally coming up to Christmas, I'll do a lot of lives on Instagram with Mom singing carols and just sharing with everybody the love of music that we share together. And it was literally through that someone, a talent scout spotted Mom and asked her to invite her in for this audition. We won't say the name of the animation, the movie, but maybe those of you might be able to guess. And it's about a 12-year-old boy who happens to find himself in the land of the dead. And the whole story around that. And yeah, Mom was selected to play the role of the grandmother. And what an experience that was, I suppose, Mom, I know that you always dreamt to you always dreamed of having a career, a life in music. And I know that you love theater and musical theater. So in a way, you actually got to
Yeah,
do that, right? Through
I
that
do. I do.
experience.
I do very much. I've always loved the theater. I've loved singing, performing. I've done some of it, well, when I was at college in the UK, acting. I've done quite a few singing shows when I was young, also with my husband, my late husband. And with his brothers, we used to have sing to a band, We perform in a town hall in Kuala Lumpur. It was, yeah, I've always wanted that. And of course, now my youngest daughter is living my dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah, living a life that I would have loved to have. But I settled to be a teacher and was great too.
And you're still having these pockets of these experiences that are tapping into the dreams that you wanted to live, which is back again to the whole concept that it's never too late and you're never too old. I think when we hold that mindset, that belief, oh, I'm too old, right? Or that it's too late, then we actually become blindsided. We blindside ourselves to the opportunity to do the things that we want to do, to experience things that fill us with joy, right? They become blockers. Don't you think so, Mom?
Yes, yes. And recently too, I've also spent a lot of my time tinkling on the piano, on the keys, because I love to just play and amuse myself, especially during the pandemic, nothing very much to do, exercise your fingers. So I've been I play a lot of modern songs just by hearing. So I love this Chinese song that the the moon belongs to your heart, to you or heart, or 月亮代表我的心 represents my heart. The moon represents my heart. And a lot of my friends, not even Chinese, I mean Malay friends and other races, they love this song. So I decided for this new year, I'll just play this song on the piano. I recorded myself. Just I learned how to do it, put that my phone next to the piano, and I recorded, and I decided to send this as a New Year message to all my Chinese friends. And they were all shocked. Wow, we didn't know you could play the piano like that. So I was quite proud, just play the whole song. Yeah, without mistakes. So I did that again. I mean, just this year. So I'm still doing something to
New.
prove that it's never too late. Hopefully, every year I do something which is still not too late to start, you know?
I love that, Mom, because at the end of the day, you don't know unless you try, right? And it's like when people say, oh, it's too late, right? Too late according to who? Who tells you it's too late? Who says that you're past your sell by date, right? And who can tell you you're too old? I mean, the truth is, really, for context, right? You're too old to maybe actually, that's not even true. I was going to say you're too old to even maybe do a public performance, but then you've just proven me wrong, because I then posted that on my Instagram and got a huge amount of views. So that in and of itself was a public performance, right? The world is changing so fast. And when we set like these limits, and there's stories we tell ourselves, our body cells, literally the way you talk to yourself is the reality that you create, right? So I know also that with the audition that you did, and even when I was encouraging you to sing with me on Instagram and sing live with me, because of your loss of hearing, right? You did feel for a while that you couldn't sing anymore, right, Mom?
Because I was afraid that I might not hit the notes. I might just waver a bit because my hearing is
And
not
and
perfect.
and you know what, Mom? If you do waver a bit, what's wrong with that?
Well, yeah, I guess people will forgive me because I'm not professional. And, your voice, you do lose breath, as you grow older, and your voice too changes a bit.
Mm.
So I'm still going to say to everyone, encourage everyone, it's never too late to do what you want to do, what you've loved all your life to do, but never got a chance to do it now. Go for it.
Mm.
It's very rewarding for yourself, most of all, you know?
Thank you for those words of
Yeah.
encouragement, Mom. And, you said there just now, if your voice, I asked you, if your voice or the note that you sing wavers, what's wrong with that? I asked you. And you said, yes, I guess people will be forgiving. And it made me think, you need to be forgiving with yourself first, right? Because at the end of the day, who's your biggest critic?
Yourself, of course.
So if we can just get out of our own way, and luckily I have Mom to remind me of that sometimes when I have my own imposter syndrome. As long as you're doing what fills you up, what brings you joy, that is actually what people see. They are not really looking for the perfection, right? And
Yeah.
those who are looking for the perfection, they're not your people anyway. You're not doing it for them. You're doing it, like you said, you recorded that message for your friends. You're spreading your own joy, really. That's what
Yeah.
you're doing.
And I must say, my friends, all those friends who have listened to me, they all encourage me and they are very proud of me and proud of what I can do at my age. In fact, I think I'm the oldest member of the groups of friends that I have. I am now the most senior, most senior.
Mm.
Wow. Once upon a time, I was the youngest in a group. Now I'm the oldest.
What a grand seat to be holding, Mom. And before we round off this episode, I know that there's one particular one particular challenge that you've had for the majority of your life that you overcame quite late on in your life too. And I think this is an important story to share in terms of the topic, you're never too old and it's not too late, which is to heal a particular part of you. Do you know which
Yeah, I guess you're talking about claustrophobia.
that's it.
I had great fears of going into elevators. That's why for the longest time in my life, never wanted to live in an apartment because I need to go into a lift or an elevator. And I'm terrified of being in the elevator by myself and getting stuck and not being able to get out. Even in London, or I go to hotels and I go for holidays, I always have this fear, but my husband, either my husband or my family or somebody will be there and will go with me, and I will be holding my breath until I reach the floor, the required floor. So I dread to go in by myself, and many a time I would wait on the ground floor waiting for the lift to come. And when the lift does come down and there are many people going into the lift at that time, I would not go in. Or if I go in first, I went in first, and many people come in, I would choose to come out and wait for the next one. And I've done that so many times, waiting for 10 minutes for a lift to come and not to be overcrowded. And it's not a thing that people understand. Some people don't understand. What's wrong with you? Everybody can go in. Come on, one more. I said, no. And I'm sometimes quite adamant with people I don't know. I say, excuse me. And then I will come out because they still want to come in. Anyway, to put how I've overcome this fear, I must just let you know. My daughter, as you know, she has what do you call her? She's a life coach, and she gives what do you call it, sessions. Yeah, that we can attend. And she said, "Oh, Mom, I'm going to have a 3-day session with whoever wants to sign up to come, and we're going to talk about this subject using music to overcome uh, things like claustrophobia and issues like that with people who have. Why don't you just come?" So I said, well, nothing to lose. I've never been again. So I did attend.
So I love that, Mom. I'm going to pause you right there. You see, never too old and it's never too late to experiment, even with your,
Yeah.
this daughter of yours who often is doing things that you don't understand. You have the openness and willingness to try new things. I appreciate you for that.
And especially, the saying, a prophet is never accepted in his own country. So I said, my daughter running, I mean, she's my daughter. But anyway, so I said, okay, anyway, I'll go. Somehow you have like more confidence in a doctor from somewhere else or from an overseas doctor, you know.
Yeah, I mean, what would I know, right?
Yeah.
What would I know?
Yeah. How can she know better than me telling me what to do? But I still went. And after 3 days, going through all her music, her IMP, her institute,
Intuitive music programming,
intuitive
Mom.
music programming, I thought nothing of it. And I started to have less fear going into elevators. I couldn't even understand. So I mean, even now, I've moved to an condominium, and I live on the fourth floor. And when I go out, sometimes coming back late at night, my chauffeur, my driver, my friend, he will take me up right to the apartment, take me in the elevator because I don't want to be on my own. But now I can happily say goodnight to him. I said, "Thank you, Sugu." And I will just go into the lift, 12 o'clock, midnight, on my own, without thinking, giving it a second thought, just goes in and put my finger on this button. I said, "Hey, what's happening? I can do it." And I don't think about this anymore. What a great relief. So I'm grateful to my daughter, Melissa, for helping me get over this horrible, horrible fear.
You know, Mom, that was only 5 years ago that you first experienced IMP, or I call it intuitive music programming. And in 5 years, not only have you moved through that phobia, and it was debilitating, right? You'd break out in a cold sweat, you kind of major anxiety, you'd feel like the walls were closing in on you.
Not only that, you have shortness of breath, you know, tight in the chest. And I almost, if anyone is standing at many people next to me, I feel like pushing them away and punching them, you know. I don't like so many people in an enclosed place altogether.
And then one of the first questions you'd always ask if you were going anywhere, especially to a hotel or a mall, where the restaurant, wherever it was, you would always ask, "What floor is it on?
Yeah.
Do we have to get in an elevator?"
Sometimes I will climb. I will climb 5, 6 flights, and they think I'm crazy. I won't tell you. Once upon a time, I was a guest of my friend in a Grand Prix in Monaco many, many years ago. My friend happened to own an apartment on the, I think, 21st floor. And from there, we overlooked the circuit of Monaco and
the F1 Grand Prix circuit.
And the ending, the ending part of the race. So we were so excited to be invited there. And of course, we went to this place. And in France, everything is small. The lift can take like 4 people. And it's really tiny. And when you go in, and Europeans are quite tall and big, and we're almost filling up the lift. Oh, I said, no, I'm not going up into this lift. 21 floors. So I told them, you go in. I'll walk up.
Wow.
Believe it or not, I walked up 21 flight of stairs to the top of my friend's apartment, to watch the Grand Prix, Monaco or Monte Carlo, Monaco, I think it was. Many moons ago.
That's incredible.
That was how scared I was to be in an enclosed space.
Not anymore. Now you have no issue with that.
Now I just take a deep breath, say, I'm going to be all right.
And you're living proof of that, because now you can recall. You have now memories to recall of you doing it over and over again without experiencing any of that anxiety. You've kind of reprogrammed yourself, right? You've created these new memories. And it was really interesting because we did use music for this. And what happened was, with particular guidance using this modality, intuitive music programming, we were able to get Mom out of her thinking mind, out of that core memory that was really written through trauma, to source what the trauma was, to access the subconscious mind. And do you remember where that core memory, that core fear of being in an enclosed space, when it was created? Do you remember?
Yes, I do. Yes. Not nice thing to remember. Yeah. You don't want me to tell it, do you? You can tell it.
Would you like me?
Briefly,
Is that okay for me to share it with people?
Yes.
Okay. It's just to give people a reference, right, of how this claustrophobia was created, written within your system. what came up was that mom had this memory that came up during the war, and
World War II.
World War II, and in Malaysia, Japanese occupation, and they would have raids, bomb raids, air raids, and there would be sirens, right, to alert for people to get into the bomb shelters.
Yes.
So she had a memory of this air raid and these alarms running, and then everybody dropping whatever they were doing to make their way underground into the bomb shelters. And my grandfather, so my mother's father, grabbing her as a young child, picking her up, putting her on his shoulders and running, right? Running and running into the bomb shelter. So that's underground. Now the bomb shelter is a very enclosed space. It's very small and it has very low ceilings.
Sure.
So you can imagine as a child, first of all, your nervous system is on high alert because you can imagine how loud these sirens are, right? And then the collective fear of people running for their lives into this dark, enclosed space. And her like still being on his shoulders, so cramped up in this small space. And once mom was able to share this memory, which she had never shared before, not at least in my whole life, and my sister was also in the workshop, we had never heard the story before. Something within her system basically recognized where the source of the fear was. And once it was recognized, she was able to process that memory in the present moment and rationalize it actually in many ways, right? You could then put a point of reference and say, talk to herself and say, this fear I'm feeling, it's real, but it's trapped in the past. And I am no longer in danger in the present moment. I can rationalize this now. I'm in a lift, I'm feeling these things, but these feelings have been trapped from a moment in the past. And even though I'm describing it, it was so much more than that, right, Mom? Because it's not like you didn't mentally process it. You just shared the memory. You want to continue?
Yeah, I don't even like to think about it now.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. What's important is to know that that memory no longer holds you, traps you into having a constantly a struggling experience every time you're in a lift.
There's always help around, and anything happen if you're trapped in a lift or whatever.
But you don't think that. You don't even think that you're going to be trapped in the lift. You don't think that anymore, do you?
Sorry?
You don't think that you're going to be trapped in the lift anymore?
No, not really. But not really, unless when you're in a lift and the lift like moves a little bit, and then you're worried a bit, Not otherwise, Yeah.
Well, Mom, thank you so much for joining again today and sharing with us your experiences as an octogenarian, grand 80-year-old plus 80 plus grand dame. Thank you for joining us and reminding us that it's never too late and you're never too old to have a new experience, or even to do something that maybe you're used to doing, but discovering a new part of that experience, like playing the piano, something you love doing, right? But now when you play, you're discovering a new way to enjoy it.
Sharing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope I've been able to encourage my friends, never too late.
And maybe this is a good episode also for people, our listeners out there, to share with their parents who might feel like they're too old and too late to do things, right? Because we can do things with our children and with our grandchildren. And mindset is so powerful, the power of the mind. How it's been so powerful for you, hasn't it, Mom?
Yes.
Okay, thank you again for joining this week. Listeners, don't forget, stay fearlessly curious. Until the next time we meet.
Thank you.